Welcome, welcome, my viewers, to the Straight from the Heart weekly show by Utamar Miraz. As always, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your words of encouragement, your words of support, your words of inspiration. Today, I've got a surprise for you. Today is an amazing guest, all the way from the US of A. His name is Mr. Ashley T. Head. Hola, Ashley.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
So going good here. Ashley, normally you know how I do my podcast. It's me asking questions and give golden nuggets and what have you. But today, because this man is so special that when I heard his story, and I'm sure you, my viewers, are going to agree with me, he's going to bring a movie to reality. So I'm not even going to introduce him of what he does or what he currently is or what he's doing. I'm just going to hand over to the man himself. Brother?
Yeah.
Say hello to the UK.
Hey, how's it going, everybody in the UK? This is Mr. Ashley T. Head. I'm chiming in from the USA. I currently live in San Diego, California, but I'm in San Jose this weekend for visit family and friends. So yeah, when I was asked to do this podcast, I thought to myself that there's no better way than to inspire others than by sharing my true story. So I've been asked to simply just tell my story and be vulnerable and to give some details to really give some insight to where I am today and where I've come from and how realizing my truth and also understanding that my past or my story does not dictate who I am now or who I am in the future is something that should be shared so other people can be inspired and can understand their own truth and how they can make a decision about their own life and the results that will follow from their actions. Okay, so to begin the story, we'll just tell a little background. I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. So I'll start the story 12 years before because that's when my biological brother was born. So my brother was born in '69 to my mother and father. And then my older brother was born in '79. And to my knowledge, from my father told me, they actually got their tubes tied. They got my mom's tubes tied because they thought, we have a son and we have a son that's 10 years younger than him. Let's just stop it there. We have two beautiful, healthy children. So that's what they did. They got her tubes tied. So in May of 1981, my mother, who was on her way to work, she said, you know what, honey, I actually am having a really bad stomach ache. Can you take me to the doctor? This is something I've never really experienced before. And it's just unusual. So my dad takes my mother to the hospital or to the doctor, and the doctor comes back into the room and says, after examination, says, Mrs. Head, we have good news and we have great news. Which one do you want first? She said, well, just go at it. Tell me. She said, well, the good news is there's nothing wrong with you. The great news is you're going to be a mother in about 2 months. So what I'm telling you is from the very beginning, the odds were quote unquote against me. But that was May of '81, August 2nd, '81. I was born. I came into the world, and they named me Ashley Head. So all was well. So you have a 12-year-old, you have a 2-year-old, and you have a baby. So when I was 2 weeks old, my oldest brother, who's 12, was at a friend's house spending a night. And my mother woke up at 2 a.m. She said, oh my God, honey, I have a really bad headache. We got to go to the hospital. He said, well, we have this 2-week-old Ashley and his brother, my brother Anthony, 2 years old. We have to have somebody to watch him. She said, call the oldest son and have him come home. So when you think about this moment, when in a woman's life who has children, does she let her 12-year-old boy take care of a 2-year-old and a 2-week-old? So that shows that this is a serious moment. So they called the neighbor's house, had my brother come home, and my brother, put us in the bassinet together, the 2 young ones, and he watched us. And they said, we're going to the hospital, we'll come back and we'll tell you, we'll let you know what's going on once we get there. So they get to the hospital, roughly 2:30 in the morning, and my dad parks his car in a weird way. They go inside, they check her in, like, look, you need to check my wife out. Her head is really hurting really bad. Just trying to figure out what's going on. She's weak, feeling sick. And in that moment, they said someone needs to move this car and on the loudspeaker. He's like, "Oh, babe, you know, this is our car. I love you." Gave her a kiss. He said, "I'll be right back." And that's pretty normal. So what he did was he went and moved the car, and he came back, and my mother slipped into a coma while he was gone. And in that moment, you know, they were trying to figure out what was happening with her. To make a long story short, by 6 a.m., when I was 2 weeks old, on this morning, 4 hours after she'd been admitted to the hospital, she died of an aneurysm. And so, I mean, imagine that. You're married, you're professional, you have your wife, you have your two young children, and you have your youngest baby who's 2 weeks old. My father had to make a decision. So what he did was he promised her in that moment that he would never remarry and that he would take care of these 3 boys no matter what. And a week later, they went to, my dad had the funeral for my mother where she grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. And normally how, you know, traditionally in America, you know, you have your funeral, you have your celebration, you put the person in the ground, then you go to someone's house or church and you have a big meal to celebrate and just, you know, to just spend time together and mourn. Well, when they put my mother in the ground, my father told my mother's mother, my grandmother, you know, I'm going to get the boys in the car and we will meet you at the house. So what he did was he put us in the car, and instead of going to the house, he drove home 7.5 hours to Dayton, Ohio. And the first thing he did was turn the phone off. So that started in that moment, right after he buried my mother, he started a clinical depression is what I understand it was today. So, you know, a few weeks later, my mother's mother wanted to get custody of us and went through the court system. And my dad's response to her subpoena or whatever it was, I am a fit father. I'm going to retire to take care of my 3 boys. So he was 34 years old and he made the decision to retire to take care of his 12-year-old, his 2-year-old, and his 2-week-old. So if we fast forward the story a little bit, for the first 3 years of my life, it was the most unique situation ever. My father was clinically depressed. And so what he did was he spent every moment with me on his side, meaning there was no babysitters, there was no company, there were no family members visiting or calling, and there was no television in our home. In his clinical depression, I was not socialized with any other person other than my father for the first 3.5 to 4 years of my life. Even my brothers really couldn't touch me or play with me. He had me latched on his side like a little child would have a doll. And then even in my younger years, when, you know, 2 and 3 and 4 years old, you know, a lot of children want to go get in their parents' bed. Well, my father would put us to bed by 9 o'clock, and by about 11 or 12, he would come get me out of bed and just spoon with me and hold me. And I remember saying one time, "Dad, why do you always get me out of bed?" He said, "You know, be quiet. You're the last thing my wife gave me. So just go to sleep." So it was a very interesting beginning of life. And we would read a lot. We would do a lot of math problems and algebra, all the algebra, but multiplications, all these things. When I was 3 and 4 years old, I started to learn these science and math. So I had an affinity for that even at a young age. So by the time I got to kindergarten, one day we were drawing our family pictures, and I drew my father, my brother, and then myself. And then a friend of mine drew her father, brother, herself, and then she drew what at the time I thought was a man with a triangle bottom half. And I said, you know, who's this man with the triangle bottom half, as any kid would, in curiosity of what they were saying. And she said to me, "Shut up, fool. That's not a man with a triangle bottom half. That's a woman. That's my mother. Everybody has a mother." I was like, "Well, I don't have a mother." So she called the teacher over, who was female. I just didn't quite tie it together. And she explained that everybody has a mother and that somehow my dad needed to explain where my mother was. So she wrote a note. She put it on my chest. I went home. And when I went home, my dad laughed. He took the letter off my chest and laughed. I remember like it was yesterday. He said, "Actually, you don't have a mother. A stork brought you to my house and put you on a porch. You were crying so much, waking up the neighbors had to bring you in. I decided to take care of you." So even in his, you know, these serious moments, he made light of these situations to really protect me from this world, or, you know, of the reality actually that I was actually living in. So we said from 1 to 4, he essentially really protected me. And then he actually went back to work for about 3 years, from like 4 to about 7. And then, it's life seemed pretty normal, single parent father, I was going to elementary school and things seemed normal. And then when I was about 7, he said he was retiring again. At this point, he was 40. And when he came home, he started to bring different women home. And these were essentially, this was in the 80s, so these were essentially crackhead women, and these were actually prostitutes. And I didn't know what it was, so I just thought he had a bunch of different girlfriends, and I thought they smoked funny cigarettes, but these funny cigarettes were indeed crack, and these were crack pipes that they were using. So he, from being depressed and to he was in the mindset of still trying to figure life out. And he resorted to using drugs, so he became a drug addict. And so shortly thereafter, when I was 7 or 8, is when the lights would be out for a month or two during the school year, or even in the summer. That first winter when I was in 3rd grade, the lights went out in November. In December in Dayton, Ohio, when there's snow on the ground and sub-zero temperatures, our lights were out and our water was cut off from about December to March, the coldest months of the year. We had no electricity and no water. And so the struggle started. And my brother, who's 2 years older, was with me the entire time. My older brother, who was 12 years older, he ended up graduating from high school and joining the United States Army. So he left, and he wanted to get as far away from Dayton, Ohio as he could, and he did. And there was no phone, so he was not able to call us. And he did write letters, similar to the movie The Color Purple. My dad would grab those letters, read them, and put them in a box. We never knew. So my brother, Anthony, who's 2 years older, and I had so much resentment as children for our older brother, thinking that he neglected us and that he didn't want to have anything to do with us, when in fact he was writing us regularly from the Army, wherever he was in the world, sending money, sending gifts, and we never got it, never saw it. Because my dad somehow wanted to keep us apart, and he would get the money and use it for drugs. He had his retirement money coming in, he had my mother's Social Security money, which is a monthly check, but outside of paying maybe the mortgage and a little food at the first few days of the month, nothing came in. So, meaning no food and no other money came in. So by the 10th of the month, we had no food and we were struggling. So by about 8 years old, when this first hard winter hit, I started to become a kleptomaniac. I started every Saturday, my brother and I, because it was the best day, early in the morning on Saturdays. And we did this for years. I did it for years. We would go to the grocery store with our coats on, and we say, okay, and we synchronize our watches. In 6 minutes, you need to be running out the door. But okay. And we would go inside the grocery store and put as much food down our coat as we could. And we would run home or hop on our bikes and go home. And we would sometimes play a game on, I forgot what we called it, like who got it, who got that is what we call it. And we would say 1, 2, 3, we'd unzip our jackets and all the food would fall out. And whoever got the most items, like if I got 28 and he got 29, he got to choose out of my stack the best thing, like a Snickers or a Reese cup or something cool to eat. But we always shared anyway, but it was a fun game we did. As two, I was 8, he was 10, little boys stealing from the store every Saturday to survive. So so it was a really hard young elementary years. And when we talk about the anger and resentment I felt, I would sometimes have to wear clothes 2 or 3 times in a row, the same exact outfit that I wore yesterday and the day before I would wear. And because I didn't have lunch money and didn't have money or any lunch packed, at lunchtime when everybody would finish a quiz or finish reading a chapter of a book and the bell would ring to go to lunch, I would stay in the room. And my friends were like, hey, Ashley, come on outside. Why don't you come play? We're going to eat lunch and we're going to play dodgeball or something we used to play. And I would say, no, I'm not hungry. I don't feel like going out. I'm going to study like my spelling words, or I don't understand this math problem, although I would. But I would make it seem like I was studying or something so I could stay in the classroom and read my book while I was super hungry and act like I was studying and trying to get some help from the teacher. And so the teacher would say, Ashley, you need help? I have lunch due to do. What are you doing here? I was like, I don't understand this question, this math problem. Like, well, you got 100 on the quiz. I'm like, but I still don't understand it. And they would just look at me like, okay, well, what are you trying to understand? I'm like, is there a different way to do this problem? And they were just like, Ashley, you okay? I'm like, I'm good. And I remember one particular time my teacher, um, third grade teacher, Miss Espinosa, I was walking out of school one day after I won an outfit for 3 days in a row. And she said, Ashley, can I talk to you? I was like, what? Yes. What do you want? She said, is everything okay at home? I said, yes. Why are you asking these questions? This is personal. It was just like, even at that age, I knew she was violating my privacy. I was like, I'm fine. Why? She's like, well, I mean, I just want to know, is everything okay? I was like, I'm making good grades. I'm making an A on everything. What do you mean, is everything okay? My grades are okay. I have an A in your class. She was like, yeah, I have an A in every subject. Look, I just got an A on the math. She's like, Ashley, are you okay? I'm like, I am. But she knew something was wrong. She knew there was some neglect happening. And I asked her, I was like, why are you asking me? Okay, she said, well, you wore that outfit 3 days in a row, and I zipped my jacket up. Like, no, I didn't. I didn't wear it 3 days in a row. This shirt just looks like another shirt. And I would keep my jacket on zipped up because I would be sour. I would have the same outfit on day after day. And there was nothing I could do about it. I didn't have options. I didn't have other clothes. I had like this one blue and white striped shirt, one pair of jeans, and a pair of Reeboks or something. So it was really hard. So, basically from third grade to sixth grade, this is pretty much my life. I made really good grades at school. We would get involved with any type of program that have after school lunches, or, you can go tutor kids and get, paid or something like that, or more so like a park across the street that had meals. But I would live this is my daily life because I had no other choice. I had to figure out who was giving away free food, or if a friend was having a birthday party, or wanted to study together. I always ask to go study at their house to be able to eat with them. I would know my homework. They would have a problem learning their math. I would say, just give it to me. I would grab it and just do it for them in like 10 minutes and just kind of hang out so I could be invited to have dinner while I was at their house. So needless to say, I had a bunch of friends in elementary school. People who didn't know, I was really just being their friend so I could eat their food at their house. And I have friends to this day that don't know. I really could care less about having them as a friend. I just wanted to eat dinner at their house. I went to survival mode even at 8, 9, 10 years old. So the real struggle, or the thing that could have changed my path, happened when I was 11 years old. When I was 11 years old, my brother was 13. I was in sixth grade. He was in the eighth. We went to visit my brother, who was settled in the military, and for 2 weeks for Christmas. And then we came home. We had new clothes. It was the second semester of sixth grade. We went to school that first day with our new clothes on. We felt good. And I thought, okay, I have clothes now. This is going to be different for the rest of this school year. I feel better about myself. That first day when I came home in January that year, my father, the house was ransacked, and my father was in prison or in jail. And the police were at our house, and they told us that my father was in a parking lot getting oral sex from a prostitute. And when they patted him down, he had an unregistered gun on him. So they took him to jail, and they didn't know how long it would be until he could be released. So we had to figure something out. So my neighbor was kind enough to take my brother and I into her home for a month until they got in touch with my grandmother in Alabama, my mother's mother, who was finally able to get custody of us. So she got custody of us for a year and a half. So the sixth grade and all of seventh grade, we were in my grandmother's home in Alabama. But while we were there, the February of my seventh grade year, my grandfather, who had leukemia and dementia, died in his sleep while we were in the home. So Anthony and I were in the home. My grandmother, who was very mean, by the way, was faced with the tragedy of my grandfather passing in his sleep. So we had to get through that tragedy, burying him, and still staying with my grandmother, who was old herself. So she was very mean, very resentful towards my father. And although she loved us, all she would do was say nasty, mean things about him, and remind us of what he did when I was 2 weeks old. Meaning how he said he was going home, and he disappeared, and he turned the phone off and didn't answer any letters for years. They knew where we lived, but they never really made the drive up to just knock on our door and see what was happening. So by June of my seventh grade year, we were getting ready for eighth grade. Anthony was getting ready for ninth grade, or I was getting ready for the eighth. He was getting ready for the 10th. And so we thought we were pretty stable. We lost our grandfather, but we would just live with her and make the best of it. And we didn't know where our dad was. Well, one day at the end of seventh grade, it was a week after school was out. we were just having a normal summer day. I was reading a book, and Anthony wanted to go play basketball. My grandmother was really upset that he wanted to go play basketball with the neighborhood kids so much. She was like, "You never want to stay home. Why you always want to leave? You can't go out today." Anthony said, "No, I'm going to go play with my friends." So he walked out the house, and I was reading my book. My uncle told me to go look for him, and I did, and I sat down where he was, and I was reading a book. My uncle, in his car, about 4 hours later, came and said, "Hey, you two you're gonna go stay with my house tonight." He's like, "No, we don't have any clothes." He's like, "That's fine. We don't need them. Grandma needs to cool off." So he took us to his house. We stayed the night. The next morning, which is a Friday morning, at 6 a.m, he woke us up and said, "We're going for a trip." He put us in his car. We went on this trip straight to the Birmingham, Alabama orphanage. My uncle signed my brother Anthony and I into an orphanage and gave custody rights away to the state of Alabama. And this was Friday, and then that weekend, I was in shock the whole weekend. I didn't eat food, I didn't sleep. But ironically, on Sunday morning, the counselor woke me up at 6 a.m, and I was like, "What is it?" The counselor said, "You need to follow me down the hallway. I have something to show you." I was like, "Okay." So Anthony was still asleep, but he grabbed me and took me down the hallway. And when I got to the end of the hallway, standing at the counter was my biological father. He got out of prison the day before and drove down to come see Anthony and I. And went straight to my grandmother's house, and she told him, "I signed them away to the state just yesterday." So he said, "Well, may I sleep at your house, and then in the morning I'll go get them." And that's exactly what he did. He stayed at her house Saturday night, and Sunday morning he drove to the orphanage and was able to get custody of us by proving that he was our biological father. So he got us out of the orphanage the day before we were to be separated in the state of Alabama. So then, of course, he drove back to Ohio and said, "Look, I got out of prison. You guys got put into prison." He said, "This is why I hid you or took you from your grandmother in the first place. She doesn't love you." So, of course, at this point in my life, at 12 years old, turning 13, I believed it. So for 1 year, my dad was fine. We got a new apartment. We had a Cadillac. I went to a uniform school. Anthony went to a performing arts high school. All was well for 1 year. At the end of the 8th grade, this was my 8th grade school year, everything was fine. We got something for Christmas. It was a good school year. At the end of the 8th grade, there was the graduation ceremony for me to go to the 9th grade, to high school. And it was an award ceremony. I knew I was getting awards because, although I had been through all this trauma, I still did my homework. I still knew math and knew science and enjoyed school. So I had good grades, and I told my dad, "Dad, I can't wait for you to come to this award ceremony of the 8th grade. It's going to be a great day. I'm going to get all these awards." So that day came, and I was on stage 4 or 5 times for this 8th grade graduation. And I looked in the audience, and one thing about my dad, he would always sit in the front row with his legs wide open. I don't know why, but this is something about my dad. So at this graduation, he didn't come to my graduation. I was utterly disturbed. When I came home, I pushed the door open. I walked back to his room with a rage. I opened up his door. My dad was in a high stupor from being high. Like, he got a hold to some crack again, and he was in his bed, incoherent, and I knew, like, my dad is on drugs again. Couldn't get away from it. And it's so sad that he did that on my graduation day, because I knew he was pretty much clean until then for that year, but he was back to drugs again. So that summer he was on drugs. I'm 13 years old, my brother's 15. There's really nothing to do to get him to a rehab or anything. He's our dad. So like, we just didn't know at that time and at that age how to help my father. So 8th grade summer, he was just getting back into drugs again. And I started high school the next year, 9th grade, and Anthony was a junior in high school, the 11th grade. So about 3 weeks into my freshman year, we were getting ready for homecoming, and I asked my dad for money for a homecoming outfit, this football game where all the alumni come back. And he said he was going to give me, say, $100. He gave me like $60 for this outfit. So this one particular day, that week, he was telling me he didn't have enough money, but I knew I needed more money. So I was, sat on a bus stop, and this local drug dealer who always, you know, speaks or beeps his horn when I was sitting on that bus stop, like, hey, young fella, you know, little guy. And I would wave back, and you know, I didn't know what it was for, but I knew that if I had become friends with him, that maybe some way he can make me some money. And because I saw these other little boys in my high school, they were, you know, real rough, you know, they had the nicest clothes, the Jordans, all this cool stuff. They would always get in his car. He would come to our high school sometime, and they would come speak to him and, you know, give him a handshake and walk away. And I would speak to him because I was one neighborhood over from them. I had to ride the bus with them, but I never spoke to them. You know, I would just, you know, kind of sit on the bus and not really interact. But this one particular day, I sat on the bus stop, and he pulled up to the bus stop, and I was the only one. I was running late for school that day. And he did his head nod, and I did it back. And he said, hey, can you come here for a minute? He's like, hey, ain't your name Ashley? I was like, yeah, it is. He said, where you live? I was like, I live a couple blocks that way. He was like, okay, cool. He's like, he said, you smoke or anything like that? You sell? Like, no, I don't do that stuff. And he was like, would you want to make money? I was like, no, I'm not trying to get into anything like that, drugs and anything. I don't want to be in trouble like Robert and JJ and Lil Marvin, all the people I knew that were doing, you know, dealing drugs. Everybody knew. He said, no, I wouldn't have you dealing drugs. He said, if you don't want to be in the streets or anything like that, you know, I'm not asking you to do that. I want to know, can you count? I was like, yeah, I make really good grades. You know, I'm smart in math and science. He was like, okay, yeah. So you hired. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, come holler at me tomorrow when you get off school. What you normally do? So when I get home from school, I go home, do my homework. And so when can you go out? It's like probably like 4 o'clock. He said, come to my house tomorrow. I was like, all right. So the next day, beginning of my freshman year, the next day I went, rushed home, did my homework. I was like, Dad, I'm going to go play. And I left, and I went to this apartment complex where he said he was, but it was like a little house. And I knocked on the door, told him to come in. He was in there. He's like, hey, what's up? This is what I was telling you about. Yeah, look at him. I was like, he good, wasn't he? And it was like, yeah, he cool. And what they were saying is I would be good because of the way I looked, that I would not be suspected of having drugs on me if I were to be a runner or if I were to count the drugs for them. They need somebody to count the crack, cut it, and rip up the weed, take the seeds out, and bag it. Nickel bags, dime bags, dub bags. So that's bags that cost $5, bag that costs $10, and bag that costs $20 to bag it up. And even I had the scale to weigh the ounces of marijuana. So my first day, we sat at a long table. They told me this was crack, this is marijuana, and they had all the little baggies to bag it up. I had a pair of gloves, and I started my behind the scenes affiliation with a mafia gang in Dayton, Ohio. And my wages were $5 a day. And I thought $5 a day was so much money back then. For counting, I'm talking about 2 and 3 hours every single day after school. I would go do this and get $5. And with that $5, I had lunch money. And with that $5, I could buy a juice or an extra cookie at lunch. And because of the way I looked, they actually started putting drugs on me to go through the neighborhood to meet other drug dealers and give them like the birdie or this brick or block. And a birdie is a kilo, 3 kilograms of marijuana or cocaine. I would give that to the drug dealers, and I would get the money, and I would walk it back to this guy, and he knew that I wasn't stealing from him, because I would bring him exactly what was given to me, and I would give the other guys exactly what they were waiting on. So I was a trusted person for this mafia gang. And then I would go home with my $5. I would get ready for school the next day, go to school, and it was a normal day at school. And when I would see the guys, the little gangsters, young gangsters from that same mafia at school, and they'd be like, yo, what's up, Ash? I'm like, don't talk to me at school. Or I would just like do a head nod and not really interact with them, so you didn't know that I knew them. And I did that my entire freshman year. And so in my home, there was a lot of resentment building between my brother and I, or my brother toward me, because my dad would give us $60 for a pair of shoes or $20 for a shirt, but I would go get a $40 shirt or a $100 pair of shoes. And when I would do it, I would always shop by myself. My brother would wonder why I wouldn't want to shop with him. Like, I can do it myself. No. He's like, I'm going Saturday morning. I would say, no, I'm studying Saturday morning. And I would just always make it our schedule conflict so we couldn't shop together. And so I would go after him or before him. I would go buy a pair of Nikes or a pair of expensive jeans. And we would come home and he'd say, how did you get those jeans? I'm like, oh, I got them from this store. It was on sale. And he would go to get the same jeans or just say, I want to get a similar pair of jeans. And the person at the store would say, no, I remember that guy. No, those jeans weren't on sale. So he started to think that it was my father giving me more money than him. And so he would be very upset about the difference in the way we were being treated, because he did treat us different when we were younger. He stopped doing it as we got older, but my brother Anthony didn't understand where I was getting extra money. And he still doesn't know to this day why I was able to buy those expensive jeans or more expensive shoes my freshman year of high school. So interesting story in that regard. And in the meantime, I even tried selling weed at school. I would give crack I would go to the corner store and go buy a bag of Doritos or something with $1, and then I would wait for a certain crackhead to get their money and give them the drugs that they were waiting on, or I would get the money that was owed to these drug dealers from a crackhead, go knock on the door and just say, yeah, you owe TJ that money. Like, if you owe him $50 or $35, do you have it? And I would wait. They give me the money. I would go pay their debt off for them. I was like the liaison between crack users and the drug dealers. And it was unique for me because I didn't look like the type of kid that would be doing something like that. So I got away with it. So this was just my freshman year. And within that year, some stories of, of me getting involved in, the honor society and all these things that an upstanding student would be involved in. But at the same time, I'm learning how to count. I can start counting weed faster. I knew how to estimate a certain pinch of a big shipment of marijuana. Then I'll drop it on the scale, it'd be exactly an ounce or exactly a half ounce, a quarter of an ounce. I knew it just by looking at it. I can say, okay, clip it right there. There should be about an ounce once you take the sticks out, and it would measure it, be a little bit over. You take the sticks out, and it would be at an ounce. Like I was such a professional with my drug counting and my drug shipments that would go out the door with me. So the end of my freshman year, I actually joined the track team and met my best friend Jason, who's still my best friend to this day. So when I joined the track team, I started to feel that there was the drug dealers were getting more aggressive with me. Like I would go to track practice and sometimes we'd stay later. We have a meeting, but I also had a pager back then. So my pager would go off over and over again because these drug dealers needed me to come count the money or break up the weed or break up the crack so they can start selling their drugs at night. And if I was late, coming past 4 or 5 o'clock, that pushes the timeline back because they wanted to get their shipments, their marijuana and their crack. Then they wanted to go to dinner, and then they wanted to hit the streets. But for me to be delayed, they would delay their whole night. So my pager would go off a whole bunch between 4 and 5 o'clock because it was time for me to start my evening shift, my 2 or 3 hour shift of getting the drugs ready for the streets in Dayton, Ohio. And I did not like that because I wanted to run track. I like track, and I saw that it was a championship team, and so I wanted to be a good track runner. So about 3 weeks into track season, I knew I didn't want to do this anymore. And so one day I got my answer. I went to the house and I had a brick of cocaine in my feli jacket. And so I went, I put my cocaine in the jacket, this brick of cocaine in the jacket, and I had to go meet this guy about a half mile away from the drug house, the trap house. So I went down the street, came from behind the store, and I met the guy in a big black Explorer, I think, and got this Explorer. We rode about 4 houses, and I, gave him the birdie, and I took the money and got out the car and started walking back toward the store. So I went in the store, and remember, I'm a good thief, so I would go steal donuts every time. I would pay for one and steal another. So I would put the donut in the sleeve of my jacket, and I would go to the counter and pay for another Dunkin' Donut. Then I would walk out. I did this every day. Every time I went to the store, I stole something. So when I came out the store, there was the truck from this drug dealer, and he was outside of it with handcuffs on, and there were 2 police cars, and there were 3 of the young guys from the mafia I was affiliated with. They all had on feli coats, and so did I. So when I walked up the store, he's like, yeah, there he is right there. There he is right there. And the police were like, who? This little soft one? And he was talking about me. He was like, yeah. They said, come here, little boy. What's your name? And they called me Tyrone, my middle name, when I was with this group. They said, what's your name? And in that moment, I said, Ashley. They was like, really? His name is Ashley, and you want us to believe he just gave you drugs. And it's like, what are you doing around here? I was like, oh, I just went to the store to buy donuts. He was like, do you know him? I said, no. He said, have you ever seen him? I said, no, sir. He's like, do you know them? I was like, no, sir. Have you ever seen them? I said, no, sir. I see them every day. They go to school with me. And the drug dealer, I just got out of his car 5 minutes prior. They said, because of that, you know, you little softy, take off running. I took off running around the corner with the money in my pocket, this big stack of money. I took off running around the corner, and I ran to the house, and I gave the drug dealer the money. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I ran out the front door and ran all the way home. My donut in my sleeve fell out. I threw the donut I was eating, ran all the way home, ran in, locked the door, took off my coat, threw it in the closet, jumped on the bed, put my head under the pillow. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's getting dangerous. And that is the last time I sold drugs for this drug dealer. My life changed in that moment. That was a defining moment for me. I knew that I could have gone to jail, gotten in trouble, or gotten a record, although I was a minor. I knew that I had to change my life. So when I went to track, I ran harder. Money was still hard with my dad, but it was okay at this point. It was the end of the year. All was well my freshman year for about a month and a half. Then one day, it was May of my freshman year, just 2 months later, I woke up, my brother woke up, we were getting ready for school, and he was expecting some money from my dad for his junior prom. And I did my normal thing, ate my bowl of cereal, and was leaving for school. And we went to different high schools, so I just said, bye, guys, and I left, as I always did. And they started to argue about this money. My dad said he had promised, I think it was $150, but he gave my brother $80. I went to school. Well, that day, that argument, when Anthony didn't get the money he thought he was going to get, he punched my dad in the face. My dad went, got a gun, and started to shoot at Anthony all throughout our house. He shot the bathroom toilet, he shot a wall in the living room, and he shot the patio in the living room, and the patio glass was broken. And Anthony jumped over the patio from the second floor, ran to school, and told his principal what happened. So that day, the police came to my school, and they did an announcement. Ashley, hey, can you please come to the office? I'm like, we're getting ready for the regional track meet. I'm in my school sweatsuit. I come down and say, Ashley, you need to go with us. I was like, Han, I said, get your books, your homework, you need to go with us. I was like, can you tell me what this is? We'll tell you in the car. So I went, I got my books, I got in the police car, and they took me to my apartment, my dad's house. And they said, go inside and get clothes, as many clothes as you need for the rest of this week. And we'll be waiting for us. I said, well, can you tell me what's happening? You didn't tell me what was happening. They said, well, this morning there was a confrontation. Your dad shot at your brother. He did not hit him, but your dad's in jail, and he's probably not coming out for a long time. And your brother's in a foster home. So I said, okay, I locked the door. I packed my bag of maybe 2 or 3 outfits. And then I jumped off the balcony and ran to a friend's house and stayed the night and went to school the next day. I don't know what the police did that evening. They probably burst the door down, but I was gone. I stayed at a friend's house and I went to school the next day. The next day, the same 2 officers came to my school. They put me in handcuffs and they took me directly to the foster home. And when I got to the foster home, my brother was there. And the first thing he said is, I hate you. He should have killed you. I was so mad at my brother. And in that moment, I had foster parents. I had Alva, and I had Alva Favors and Daryl Favors. So they had 5 other kids, and they added Anthony and me to the group. So they had 7 kids living in the house. It was a big house. They had plenty of food. I've never seen so much food. They had a junk food closet of all the junk you could imagine. And then they had a refrigerator filled with food. You couldn't even put a 12-ounce can in there because there was so much food. It was bursting out the seams. So that was pretty amazing to me. Although I like that, I was like, I still hate this place. I'm a foster kid. I'd never seen that before. I'd never seen a refrigerator filled with food in my life. So that day, they sat us at the table, And they said, we don't know what happened or how you guys got here. All we know is that you're you know, children that need a home, and we took you in. We're not going to always get along, but we're going to love you. We're going to love on you. And in this home, you will go to church and you will know the love of God. My father was an atheist who said that he was our God. So I was not familiar with religion, really. When we're in Alabama, my grandmother was a Baptist and her husband was a Baptist preacher. We went to church, but I would just, not pay attention. As soon as we had a break at church, I would go to the store, get candy. It was just not a place that I was interested in, and I wasn't listening, so I wasn't learning. So in this moment, I looked at Anthony, I was like, whatever. We're here. Whatever. I don't care. I'll go to church. I'll do whatever I need to do. I'm just trying to get out. I'm just trying to graduate. So we had a mom now. We had a mom who loved us, a dad who took care of us. We had a really good relationship with Anthony. And I knew it from the beginning because they went to the same high school. And Anthony played football and he played football. Well, they didn't go to the same high school, but they both played football. So immediately they start talking about football and practice and their favorite teams. And I'm really not into sports. So I'm looking like, okay, Anthony got a new dad. And here I am stuck in this family who are a bunch of strangers trying to tell me they love me. You don't love me. You don't know me is what I felt. So I would, again, I found my solace in running and doing my homework. So I would go to school, and this was the summer, so I got to know them through the summer. But the next year I would go to school, come home, do my homework, and just stay in my room. I had my own room, so I'll stay in my room and just read or do my homework or nap or listen to music, just anything to help me pass the time, almost as if I were in prison. And then with my best friend, I would always go to his house and spend time with him and his 4 siblings. So whenever I wasn't doing homework and didn't have to be at home, I would go to my best friend's house. And that entire sophomore year, I never really spoke to my brother Anthony. I would sit at the table with him or just say, "Hey, what's up?" But there was nothing to say to him. I hated him in that year. My father, I made sure he had my number through letters, and he would call once a week, and I would answer his calls, and I was allowed to accept his calls. And I remember one time Anthony picked up a chair while I was on the phone talking to my father, and he hit me in the back of the head, almost tried to knock me out. And just got in the chair and kept hitting me. And I got up and I fought him back. But in that moment, he said, our foster father broke it up. He said, "Why are you hitting your brother?" He said, "Because I hate him. He's talking to my father trying to kill me." I said, "He should have killed you. He should have killed you. That's what you get. He should have killed you. I wish he would have killed you. I hate you." So that mid-year fight, my sophomore year, made it very difficult for he and I to communicate the rest of that year. So he graduated that year. He did this event called the Botillion, and Daryl, the Botillion is like a cotillion for women, but it's for the young men. They wear tuxedo, and they get to stand in front of all of the city of Dayton, and they get to be presented. He's the son, Anthony Head is the son of Daryl and Alva Favors. He runs track, he plays football. They do all these things. I went to it, but I really wasn't into it. I just hated everything about him and didn't want to have anything to do with my brother. So he went to college that summer after my sophomore year, and he went for like a summer program, and he came back on his birthday, July 21st, which was his birthday. Well, that day, Alva, and not to mention our foster mother, was about 350 pounds. Not to mention that she was very unhealthy, and she smoked and she drank Coca-Cola every day and ate fried chicken a lot. We still had a good relationship, and I was almost at the point where I was going to call her mom, but I didn't. So on Anthony's birthday, July 21st, 1997, he came home from his summer program to spend the day with the family and have pizza and have ice cream, and we didn't buy those things. My foster parents didn't buy those things because they didn't know if he was coming home or not. So that evening, he came home about 8 o'clock that evening, and Alva made us have a family meeting, and we discussed chores. She's like, "You guys need to start doing more chores." And so we had a family meeting. She was very upset with me, and she told me, certain things that I needed to do. But she said, "But I love you guys, and I'm still gonna go get Anthony some pizza and ice cream to celebrate his birthday." So I went to bed. She went to the grocery store, and when she came home, I was already asleep. And all the foster kids were there except for the oldest daughter. So in that moment, when she brought the cake home and ordered the pizza, my oldest brother came into the room. Oldest foster brother came home and said, Ashley, can you come home? I mean, can you get up because something's wrong with Mama? I was like, what's wrong with Mama? I get up, I go into her bedroom, and she was breathing hard, walking back and forth, and she said, something's wrong with me, guys. She's like, I want you guys to live for God. She fell to her knees. I'm sorry, this is on in the background, but she fell to her knees, and she said, I want you guys to live for God. She's like, Ashley, everybody, Costello, Anthony, everybody, live for God. She fell to her knees, and in that moment, she fell on her stomach, and she died in front of all of us of a massive asthma attack, a major asthma attack that caused a massive heart attack. Her grandchild was in the bed next to her, a 5-year-old or 3-year-old, and all of us, there were 6 of the 7 kids. So I looked at Anthony and I said, with my lips, their mom died. He was like, I can't believe it. You know, it was almost like we got closer in that moment because it wasn't really our mother. So what happened was I grabbed my nephew. I go into the living room. The ambulance we go to the hospital at 11:45 that night on Anthony's birthday. The doctors came out of the emergency room and said, we're sorry, but there's nothing we can do. So my foster mother, the one mother I'd ever known, died of an asthma attack and a massive heart attack in front of all of her kids. So life was different. Anthony went to college just 2 weeks later, and here I am, mad. I have so much rage inside of me because my dad's in prison, and I'm with this family that's not my family, and I have 2 more years of high school left. I couldn't believe it. Even standing here now, just thinking about how I felt, I was so mad at Anthony still because he got me in this situation. Because of his behavior and lack of control, we were placed in a foster home, and then he graduated 2 years before me, and here I am stuck in a foster home with this family, with the father who doesn't really care much for me, and I have 2 more years of school to have to live with them and get through this. And I don't know when my dad's getting out. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, which meant inevitably it would be when I graduated from after I graduated high school that I would see him again, because I hadn't visited. We just wrote letters and talked on the phone. So if we speed the story up, junior year was hell for me. I had to get a job. He would never come get me from work. He would never take me to work. He did not give me allowance. I had to scrub the floors of the house with the scrub brush, but no one else had to do what I had to do. I had to clean the toilets. I had to clean his car. I had to clean the kitchen floor, the cabinets, the counters. I had to walk the dog. Like every chore around the house, I felt like I had to do by myself. And so when I was home, I did those chores. And when I didn't have to be home, I would run and stay at my friend's house just to make it, because I was going to hurt somebody, or I was going to hurt myself, or I was going to, commit a crime. So it was really bad my junior year. But then senior year, I started to have a different attitude. I was a star in track, a star in cross country. I was the first chair playing the trumpet in a band. I was in the honor society, all these things. Meanwhile, a lot of the students, those boys in the mafia that I was involved with my freshman year, they started dropping out of school. They started having juvenile crimes, getting in trouble. And I would still see the drug dealer that I was working for, and he would even beep when he would see me out, or at a football game, he would be there, he would beep. If he was in the parking lot picking up some young girl, he'd beep, I'd wave back, but there was nothing else I would say to him. So my senior year, things changed because my foster father wanted me to do the same program that Anthony did with this tuxedo, this Botellian event. It was going to be in March of my senior year. So it was October when applications were due. I didn't do it. He got the application. He filled it out. He turned it in. And all of a sudden he was talking about this Botellian. Yeah, Ashley, you're going to be in the Botellian. I'm going to be so, glad that you can do this. You see how it helped Anthony, and everything that was affiliated with Anthony, I wanted to run far away from. But in this moment of him telling me he wanted me to be a part of the Botellian, I saw him light up. And I was like, wow, maybe if I do this, he'd stop treating me different. He started talking to me. Maybe he would come to a track event or a cross country event. I was in the newspapers for my track running track and running cross country, undefeated distance runner. But he never came to my cross country meets in the fall or my track meets in the spring. So I was like, well, Daryl, yeah, I'll do the Botillion. It's my senior year. You think you can make it to a track meet? He said, yeah, I'll do it. I'll make it to the track meet. I'll be there. I'll be there. I was like, okay. So even though I was still working at a department store, he would not take me to work. He would not pick me up from work. But Botillion practice on Saturday morning, he would run an errand and be back by 10:30 to make sure I was up, make sure I was dressed, and made it to Botillion practice by 11. He never missed a Saturday and never missed a Wednesday. So it was interesting that we started to have this different dynamic based around the Botillion. If I talk about school or my achievements, he would say, "Oh, okay, that's good." When I would say, "Man, I learned a new step in this Botillion. It's going to be exciting," he would light up like a firecracker. He was so excited. And I wonder why. So if we fast forward to the end of my senior year of high school, it was the father-son banquet. And ironically, the week of the father-son banquet before the actual event, the next Friday, this week is the week before, my father got out of jail or prison. And it was the same day I found out that we were having the father-son banquet that weekend. And I had to invite my father. So I was thinking, wow. I mean, I had to go to a counselor at school to say, should I invite my biological father or should I invite my foster father because he's really into this? So I was advised, and I think I made a good decision. I did not tell my biological father at all about the Botillion because it was a big thing. I told my foster father that he was my father for the event, for the father-son banquet. So we went to the father-son banquet, and there's a significance to this. That evening, we got it. I got him a plate. It's all the 17 boys in the Botillion and their fathers, and we had to get in line, 2 separate lines, and come together in a ceremony where they would put a cloth around our neck, a kenta cloth, and tell us. They were advised to tell us something they would never tell us otherwise in life. This is the moment to share a secret. My foster father, in that moment, we put the cloth around my neck. He said, "Ashley, I'm putting this cloth around your neck and I'm sharing this secret. I'm so hard on you and Anthony because I love you. And everything that the older 2 children did not do, that I prayed for them to do, run track in you or follow God or play football, was what Anthony did. You 2 did. And I'm so proud of you. And I want you to know tonight that I love you. And I'm proud that you're my son." So he told me that for the first time at the father-son banquet my senior year. The Botillion was the following Friday. This is a Friday. So the next day, I'm thinking like, man, we had we got to meet the dates the next night, but we drove home and I was telling him how excited I was, and we started to get to know each other. He parked the car at 9:00 that night in front of our house. We talked till 1 a.m. He's telling me about how he met Alva, his wife, who passed. He's telling me the love he has for life and football and how he started his career. He went on and on and on about his life and everything about him I learned that night. And then he emphasized how much he loved me and Anthony and how he just didn't tell me and didn't know how to tell me, but he felt that in that moment he had to tell me. So the next night, I was allowed to go to a party, and I did not have a cell phone, so I called him at 11:00 that night to say, hey, Daryl. I wanted to call him Dad, but I didn't. I said, "Hey, Daryl, did anyone call me on the house phone?" He said, "You need to get your butt home right now." And he was so aggressive. I was like, "Daryl, we're cool, right? Like, why? No, you need to get home now. You got to get up and get your nephew, who's 5 years old. You need to get him ready for church in the morning." So I didn't understand where this attitude was coming from, but I came home. He was asleep and my nephew was asleep, and I asked him, I was like, "Daryl, I'm home, but where's everybody else at?" He's like, he did a rundown of everybody. She's at work, he's at his friend's house. And I was like, "But why did I have to come home?" He said, "Because I told you to come home. Don't disrespect me. Get ready for bed and get ready to get up in the morning and go to church." So I called my friend Jason, had a conversation. I walked through his room, which had a bathroom that you can go to my room. And, his arm was off the bed, so I put his arm on the bed and, just kind of covered him up. And I went and got in the bed. Well, the next morning, Sunday morning, it was 9:12. My nephew wakes me up by shaking me. "Uncle Ashley, can you get up? Make me some cereal?" Papa won't give me cereal. I was like, okay, no. I was like, what time is it? I was like, we got to leave in 15 minutes. Go tell Papa to get up. I'm not getting up. We should be leaving in 15 minutes. Are we not going to church? So he left. He came back at 9:15. He said, Uncle Ashley, can you get up, please? I was like, why, little boy? We're not going to church. I was like, Daryl, get up. We have to get ready for church. He said, Papa won't get up. I've asked him a couple times. I shook him. I said, did you shake him? He's like, yeah, I shook him. He's froze dead. I was like, he's froze dead. He's like, what? He's cold? I put on my shoes. I run to his room. I touch his neck, move his arm. Rigor mortis had already set in. My foster father died in his sleep the day after he told me he loved me for the first time. He died in his sleep. And I took my nephew downstairs in the basement and said, stay downstairs, you and the dog. I'll, just play, and I'll get you a bowl of cereal. I'm going upstairs with Papa. He says, Papa, okay. I said, he's fine. Just stay downstairs. So I went upstairs and I burst into tears and I double checked everything. He was dead. So I started making my phone calls. I called his son. Were you here this morning? He's like, yeah. I said, your dad is dead. Come home. I called several people. Come over. He's dead. He's dead. Then I called the police. 911. My father's dead. Come to this address. And I went, got at the foot of his bed and just cried holding his foot. It's like, girl, I can't believe you died. And in that moment, I heard him say to me, Ashley, like he would say about running, if you fell, right, if you were in first place and you ran and you fell right before the finish line, would you sit down and cry or would you get up and keep running? Or would you crawl? I was like, girl, I'm gonna get across the line. I don't care how I have to get across the line. If I have enough space, I may still be in first place. I'm gonna get across the line. I'm gonna get up. I heard him tell me that in that moment when I was saying, Daryl, I can't believe you died. I heard him say, you're gonna get up, you're gonna keep running. This was 6 weeks before I was to graduate from high school and 3 months before I was going to college, Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, an HBCU, number one. But he died. Everybody came to the house, including my counselor with children's services, who would normally check on me once a week, once every 2 weeks, just to see if everything was okay in the foster home. When she came to the house, she got me in the car and said, we need to take a walk. We went to a park and we walked while everybody was at the house. She said, Ashley, I'm going to push your paperwork back. You're going to be 18 in August. And I don't think it's necessary for me to move you from this foster home to another for 3 months before you go to college. So somehow, some way, Athena, my counselor, my caseworker, she moved my files some way where they weren't going to be reviewed until after I was 18, about to go to college. So that's what she did. So for the last 6 weeks of high school, I lived in a foster home with no foster parents. I took care of myself. The foster brothers and sisters got food for us. I took my finals. I ran track and did everything as if I had parents. But my last 6 weeks, I was already on my own. I was 17 years old. I had to figure it out. And that summer, a lot of teachers came together to give me supplies and all these other things, so to get me ready for school. But when we talk about that Botellian event, it was the next Friday. Remember? So Father Son Banquet Friday, he died on Sunday. And so the following Friday was the big event. Cameras were there. The news stations were there. The newspapers were there writing articles about me because just a month prior, I was in the news for being a star athlete, and they talked about my brother and I, how we were foster kids and how we ran track and were stars. So here we are a month later. The cameras are there again because I was in the Botellian and I had lost both foster parents. So when they called Ashley Head, they said, Ashley Head, he's the son of the present Daryl Favors and the deceased Alva Favors. And they said, we apologize. He's the son of the now deceased Daryl Favors and the deceased Alva Favors. So both my parents were mentioned and honored at my Botellian. And the decision was made beforehand, but I had won the highest scholarship. I won the Mr. Congeniality Scholarship. I won the academic scholarship. And I didn't have parents there to support me. My biological brother, Anthony, who's 2 years older, he was there. And, there was a lot of hugging and just playing nice that week because here we are going through another tragedy together. It was unbelievable. So then, we move forward. I end up going to Morehouse College. I chose my degree to be chemistry with a chemistry pre-med. In college, I was an independent student. I got scholarships. I worked at the Cheesecake Factory. I ran track. I worked in the student affairs office, the academic affairs office. Those 4 years flew by. I ran track for 1 year, and being that I was a science major, I felt I needed to focus because if I didn't finish my degree, I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to be a doctor, but I graduated in 4.5 years, Morehouse College, Atlanta, Georgia, with a degree in chemistry, and then I got into clinical research. And not to skip over too much, because I want you to have the opportunity to ask questions. I then got into clinical research, which is like behind the scenes in pharmaceuticals, the people that find the side effects. Essentially, I'm a person that conducts clinical research on humans with pharmaceutical drugs. So now I'm a clinical scientist. There's so much in the story in between to say. I moved to New York City for the last 8 years, and I started a talent management company, which is Natural International Talent Alliance. But started my talent management company. I'm a clinical scientist now, and there's so many stories to tell. But I'll open the floor for questions. This is where I am now. Your phone's on mute. You on mute?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. My viewers, my family. Did you hear the story? So, this brother of mine, this is who I call my brother, is my family. And what he's gone through in life, the stories that you've heard, and everything, he still came out, all those tragedies, trauma, what he saw with those young eyes. And he's become a clinical scientist today. Not just a clinical scientist, what he was running in New York. And he dealt with drugs at such a young age. Everything that he went through, his daddy pulling out a gun, coming home, there's opening the refrigerator, there's no electric, and daddy's in the corner smoking crack. That kind of thing. I can relate to you because you know my story. My daddy was a heroin addict, same kind of thing, but we had food. We had food all the time. I can't even imagine what it was like as a kid because when I didn't have food, I was an adult. So it was a different thing, but being a child is a child. So, Ashley, what would you say got you through all these traumas and tragedy and everything you've been through? What made you go through to where you are today? What motivated you?
Well, for me, I feel like the thing that motivated me to continue to push through and strive for goals and to write things down and to work towards achieving them was, I just call it that intangible something within that the fight or flight, the survival mode that I have been in, I feel like my entire life. I know that if I don't work towards things and do them myself, that I will not survive. I will not live. I will not eat. If I don't work hard to make a check, if I don't work hard to make my business grow, if I don't work hard to, even in the gym to stay healthy, that it can be detrimental to me. And I learned at a very young age. Like, I didn't have someone, people take for granted a mom or a dad or a grandmother putting food on their table. They know they come home and there's food on the table. They take for granted clean clothes hanging in the closet. Go get ready, boy or girl. And you go in and there's clothes to choose and you put them on and get ready. Go put your shoes on. Go put your socks on. Well, those conversations never happened in my house because we didn't have clean clothes in the closet. Food was barely cooked and put on a table. Eat your vegetables. I don't even know what that's like because nobody made me eat vegetables because we didn't have vegetables. We didn't have food. We ate whatever we could get. If it was McDonald's, if it was, when I was 11, there was we were in a room and Anthony and I had a cookie and a cracker on top of it. That was our Thanksgiving dinner with a glass of water, tap water. You know, so like there's so many stories of things that I did not want for myself anymore and that I do not want for my future children. So I knew I had to work hard to make my dreams become a reality on my own. There's no calling an uncle or an aunt or brother to give me money in my PayPal or to pay my phone bill or to help me with the light. There is no one. I had to do it on my own. And so when I was in college, I started to work 2 and 3 jobs. I would go to class, I'd go to work study in between class, working at school. And as soon as I finished that job, I would ride the bus to the Cheesecake Factory and work as a host at the front counter. I did what I had to do. And I worked 37 hours a week while taking, you know, a full credit load of chemistry and math all through college.
See, that's so powerful, because you could have easily gone down the crime way, because there was far more money coming. You were getting the sneakers, you were getting the jeans and stuff. But I think
Exactly.
the lesson came for when the police stopped you, when you had the donuts in your coat. And I think from that day you made that decision. That's why even now, as adults in the personal development world, which I'm into, helping people, changing their lives, it's one fundamental part of getting anywhere in life. You have to take that initial decision. And you followed it through with action. And today you are the man that you are. And I've been blessed to connect with you. My viewers don't know this. I spent near enough 2 hours 2 days ago talking to my brother.
Yeah.
So I found myself a new family, and this is for Javon that I met this beautiful man, this beautiful brother of mine, because when he was a mentor in the beach house, and that's when I saw him and I felt a sense of connection. But then that's what I would say to people: when your heart is connecting with somebody, there's a reason for that alignment. And when I spoke to this beautiful soul, I realized we had similar stories to tell. We went through the same kind of tragedies, the drugs, not having mommy, not having daddy, not even having, today I've got a nice blazer on, he's in a nice environment. But the bottom line is, you can get there.
You can.
You need that strength. He said, work hard, which I call the grind. Grind to where you want. It's easy to take the coward's way down. My daddy took it, put petrol over him, put a match and it's finished. That's the coward's way. Grind it out, and I guarantee you, there are 2 men sitting in front of you today. My brother Ashley T. Head and me, Utamar Miraz. What we've been through in life, and we're sitting here talking. We're giving you hope. We're giving you encouragement. We're giving you inspiration. Forget all that. You can call us up. We're on Facebook. You can find us anywhere. And I can speak for my brother here. I know I'm speaking for him. We're here for you. And this is the movement that we need to be here for one another, because Ashley T didn't have nobody. Utam R didn't have nobody. We went through that suffering ourselves. And there's bits of the story that he didn't even tell you that I know. He had to do his homework under the sidewalk lights. So you will find a way. Don't find the excuse, find a way. And that will take you forward. So my brother, if you had to give the young guns free advice in life, powerful advice, what would you give to young guns that were going through what we've been through as children?
I had to give the youngins 3 bits of advice. I would say, first and foremost, everybody, even those who are middle-class neighborhoods or raised wealthy, everybody has a story of something that is not something they like or not ideal, or it's a struggle or some type of something happening in their home that could write a story for them to be depressed, to be sad, to be upset, to want to be an outlaw. But the first thing is to not let your story or your circumstance define you. There is no reason why something that happens today or that happened yesterday, why it should be something to determine who you are today or how you behave today. So don't let your story define you. The second thing is, no matter where you are, you have to make a conscious decision within yourself to be in the place where you want to be. It's okay to dream about things. Get a notepad, write down dreams, write down goals, write down what you want for your life, what you want for your family, what you want for your future. And then start to figure out ways to achieve those goals, those dreams, those aspirations. You can do it. There is nothing in this world that can stop you except for you. So write goals down, write dreams down, and work toward those goals, dreams, and aspirations. And number 3, get your education. You know, everybody, there's a lot of people who say education is the system. It's the thing that, you know, you're supposed to go work, get a 9 to 5. I'm not saying you have to work and get a 9 to 5. I'm saying get your education. And whatever you do, if you want to be a rapper, you want to be a dancer, you want to be a doctor, whatever you want to do, become educated in that subject area and become a subject matter expert in that area, and you will be successful. So get your education to become an expert in that area so you can make money, so you can live, so you can survive. And of course, while doing that, you have to give back and inspire others and share your story.
Wow, did you hear that, my people? I hope you had your notepads down. You can always rewind some valuable information from my beautiful brother here. And we've been so blessed to have you here, Ashley, Mr. Ashley T.
Sir.
Salute.
Yeah, no doubt.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the rest of the viewers in the UK, from our hearts. And very soon,
yes,
a promise I'm making to my viewers. This is a promise, and quote me on it. You will see Ashley coming. You will see Mr. Ashley T. Head is coming to the UK next.
I'll be there.
He is coming. He's coming. So
I'll be there.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be signing out from Straight from the Heart Weekly. And thank you so much. And
You're welcome, brother.
Always say to my viewers, live well with one another, because if we can't, what is the point? On that note, have a wonderful day, my viewers.